Hello everyone, it's Fiona and welcome back to my channel, Cruising Eva Chanel. I hope you're all very well. December feels like it was a really long time ago now. Is that just me? But today I am going to be talking about the books I read in December, so hopefully as I start looking at them, some things will start coming back because it does just feel like a long time ago. It's the 15th of January today, so it has been a couple of weeks. But I don't know. I feel like December almost feels like it's before Christmas, and then Christmas and it's New Year, that final week is just kind of its own entity. Does that make any sense to anyone else? So I feel like when I'm talking December, I'm talking pre-Christmas, which just feels like a really long time ago. But anyway, let's move on. I read 5 books. Oh, wait. And then kind of a sixth in December, but we'll start with these ones. Yeah, it didn't go as I had hoped, so you're probably sick of hearing this, but I did Bookmas and I was hoping to post 24 videos, which I knew going in was very ambitious, but where it kind of fell down for me was that I started this book at the very end of October, thinking it would take me a couple of weeks to read, and then towards the end of November I'd start filming my Bookmas content, start reading the books for that. This took me 6, maybe even 7 weeks to read. I didn't finish it until the end of the first week of December, so then all the Bookmas content had to start kind of after that, or at least most of it, and it was just hard and it just got away from me. I couldn't do it. But that's fine. That's why I only ended up reading this many books when I had hoped that I would be kind of in the double digits. That's a little bit of backstory for that, but let's actually talk about the ones that I did read. Also, I have just discovered there was still a bookmark in here. So like I said, I finished this towards the end of the first week of December, and this book is, by the way, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It is, I believe, part of a duology. This is obviously the first book, a high fantasy. It felt high to me. Is this considered high fantasy? I think so, but as someone who doesn't read a lot of fantasy at all, it felt like high fantasy, and it took me, I think it was about page 130 when I first started to feel like I knew what was going on. So let's backtrack a bit. We're following kind of 3 main storylines. We've got Tane, who is a dragon rider, or training as a dragon rider, and she's in the east or west? East. Then one of the other storyline follows the west, and in that storyline we're following Eid, who is one of the Queen's ladies in waiting, I think, Queen Sabran. And then we are also following a man called Niklas, who was banished from the kingdom by Queen Sabran 7 or 8 years ago, and obviously as the book moves forward, all those storylines kind of interconnect and weave together. So we've got basically the West, where Queen Sabran and Eid are. They are really scared of dragons. It's a world kind of where it's humans versus dragons, but the humans in the different areas of the world don't really work together. In the East, you've got Tane. She's training as a dragon rider, like I said, so they have a really good relationship with the dragons, but the whole world doesn't, and they have differences with each other over that because they can't believe each other would. One can't believe that the other would trust the dragons, the others can't believe that they wouldn't. So it's that kind of thing. Can I remember anything about this? And then some of the dragons, the nameless one, so like the one who almost entirely destroyed the world, if memory serves, has been asleep for about 2,000 years, and there's inklings that this dragon is going to be rising again and is starting to rise again. So there's a whole fear about that across the world. And basically we're watching this all unfold from these 3 different storylines, and then there's other characters introduced who move between the places or who stay in one of those places, and we're just seeing it all happen. This book is 804 pages long, and the pages are dense. It took me so long to read it, and because I don't know if it's because I'm not much of a fantasy reader, like I said, but I was reading the pages so slowly, and then a lot of the time having to go back and read it again because I realised like I didn't take in any of that, and I just had no idea what was happening a lot of the time. That being said, I did enjoy this. There were parts where I really enjoyed it. Probably like, I don't know, maybe this kind of area, like towards the end but not the very end. I kind of really got into it and I thought it was really exciting, and there was a bit of romance happening that I really liked. But on the whole, I think I was still enjoying it then at the very end, but I was just ready for it to be over, and I ended up rating it 3.75, I do believe. What to say about it? I liked it, I did like it, and there were times where I really liked it, but there were also times where I was just so confused. I didn't know what was happening, and it just felt like it took me forever to read. But if you want to give this a try, obviously if you want to give a book a try, give it a try. Like, there doesn't need to be any other reason. If you want to read a sapphic fantasy, then this is definitely a good shout for that, because this is a sapphic high fantasy. I think it's definitely sapphic. I believe it's high fantasy. It's got dragons, it's got magic, and I do think it's a good book. It just took me a really long time, and I kind of got over it before I was finished. And it also took me just such a long time to get into, like I said, like 130 pages, I'm sure that's where it was, that I first was like, oh. Which out of this book is not that long, but it's still quite long. Like, with how much text is packed onto each page, to spend 130 pages reading before I actually know what was going on is a long time to put into a book before you really know if you're getting much out of it. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm sounding really negative. It's such a long time ago. Good book, not my favourite. We'll just put it like that. Then I moved on to Love Like Farms by B.K. Barson. Probably my favourite of the month. I just loved this one. So this is a romance book following, what is her name? Stella and Luca, and basically they're best friends. Stella owns a Christmas tree farm and they're in a bit of financial trouble. So she enters this like influencers giveaway competition and puts in the application that she runs it with her boyfriend because she thinks that makes it sound more romantic and gives her more of a chance. But the thing is, she doesn't have a boyfriend. So she asks Luca to be her fake boyfriend when this influencer comes to visit. Fake dating, not usually my thing. Friends to lovers, very much my thing. And I'm actually really glad I didn't know it was fake dating going in, because I probably wouldn't have picked it up. But I'm so glad I did. I absolutely loved this one. I just love the way B.K. Barson writes romance. Like, she just gets it, and I get her. Like, it's so good. This is the second book that I've read by her. I'll definitely be reading more. This is, I think, the first in a series of like 4 seasonal books. I will definitely be picking up the rest of them. I just thought this was so wonderful. The way she writes romance is just so lovely and wholesome, and like they just loved each other so much, and I really enjoyed it. And I do believe I gave this one 4.5 stars. So I didn't love it as much as the previous book I read by this author, which was First Time Caller. I gave that one 5 stars back in the summer, but still, I love it. Just both of her books that I've read, I'm like literally sat there squealing with joy at what's going on, how much love is in the pages. Super fun. Just a wonderful time. Then I moved on to my next Christmas read, which was The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. Interestingly, this was, I think, the one that I was the most looking forward to, and it was the one I liked the least. I actually DNF'd this like 20 pages in or something. This writing style was not for me. I don't really like enemies or rivals to lovers. I just find it annoying. And it was like, and he lifted up his shirt and oh my gosh, was that an ab? The kind of ab that looks like it would feel hard to, oh no, so it was like, and it looked hard, which means that it would feel hard, and he must be so strong. And oh, is that a little bit of hair? Like, I just, icky to me, icky. And he couldn't get her name right, and I just, it's not for me. Not for me. I think it does turn into like a bit of a mystery. So that probably would have been kind of interesting, but I can get past that whole opening, so not for me. And we finished that little and I finished that little holiday book stint with Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. I loved this one. Not quite as much as Love Like Farms, but I still really liked this one. So in this one we're following Molly and Andrew, and they're both Irish, but they both live in Chicago, and they had kind of known each other vaguely from the first time they flew. So basically they flew home for Christmas, both of them, and ended up sat next to each other, and they were like, oh hey, I know you. And then I think that happened once or twice, and then after that they kind of planned it to sit together and didn't really see each other throughout the year, but every year they'd go home together and spend this like 10-hour flight or however long it is, just falling for each other over the years. And it was really lovely, and I don't remember much about it, but I remember having a really great time with it. And also I read a lot of this on a plane, which is just perfect. I love it when the book like perfectly matches the context of the reading. Yeah, like I say, can't remember too much about it, but enjoyed it. I really like it in romance books. I know I've said this lots of times before, but when the characters are really aware of their own feelings for each other and they acknowledge it, which is like the opposite of this, right? Where they're like, no, I don't like him. How could that thought even enter my mind? And then this, they're like, I don't remember exactly in this one, but I feel like this was kind of the vibe. Just when they're like, either, yeah, I really like you, and then they just go for it, or understandably as well to be like, yeah, I like you, but this is what's holding me back. But at least if they acknowledge it and talk about it, they're not trying to kill anyone. That's what I really appreciate in a romance book. So I think I gave this one 4 stars, maybe 4.25. I'm sure it wasn't a 4.5 because I didn't like it quite as much as Love Like Farms and the next book that I'm going to talk about, which I also rated 4.5. So it must have been a 4 or 4.25. But yeah, I'd really recommend this one if you want a lovely holiday romance. Actually, I'm not going to talk about that next. Let me find this other book. I did attempt to pick up Something in Disguise, or was it The Beautiful Visit? Which one's first? The Beautiful Visit by Elizabeth Jane Howard. One that I was really not anticipating enjoying. In fact, I read it in a reading vlog of books I predict of DNF. And I was right, I didn't give it much chance, but I just knew, even if I wasn't going to hate it, I wasn't going to love it, and I just didn't want to carry on with it. The font's horrible, it's 2 books in one, and it's just like, I don't know. This book was written in the 1950s, and the writing and the language, it was just not, I wasn't like completely against it, but I wasn't really into it either. Do you know what I mean? And I just decided, no, it's Christmas and I want to have a fun time, and this probably isn't going to give me that. So I decided to put this one down, and I also decided to just get rid of the whole thing, which usually, because it's 2 books, I would never get rid of a book without trying it, but I'm just not trying the second one because I just know it's going to be the same, right? Yeah. This book I just didn't think I was going to like anyway. Either of these books, they're not ones I would have chosen, they were given to me, and it would have had to have done a lot to convince me to try to keep reading it and like really put a lot into it in those first few pages, and it just didn't, and that's okay. And then finally, a surprise added to the TBR. On Christmas Day, my mum gave me The Names by Florence Knapp, and I wasn't expecting this at all, but a few months back she had told me that she was reading this book, and she reads all her books as audiobooks, but she told me, oh my god, Fee, I'm listening to this book and I'm not sleeping at night, because she always listens to audiobooks before bed. And she was like, I can't stop listening to it, it's so good. And I'd asked her what it was, and she told me, and I said, oh, I've heard of that, it's meant to be really good. And she was like, it is. And then she surprised me with it on Christmas Day, which was really lovely. So this book is about a woman who has a baby, and she's trying to decide between 3 different names for her son. And so like the opening, I guess prologue, is it a prologue? Yeah, is her like thinking about these 3 names that she's picked up that she likes. One is her husband's family name that he's expecting her to use. One is the name that she'd actually really like to use. And then the 3rd one is the one her daughter, so the baby's older sister, has picked out for him. And it follows their lives, like the span of their lives, in 3 kind of parallel universes, depending which name she'd chosen. So if she chose the name her husband, who is not a very nice man, and I would be aware of that going into this. If you don't want to read a book about DV, then this might not be for you. But he is expecting her to use this name, and if she does, I almost think it ends up the worst scenario, because she just goes home and she's like, yep, all done, and they live miserably ever after together. Whereas some of the other scenarios, the one she goes home and she says, yeah, I chose this name, it means this, so it's kind of similar to yours, but it's more unique for him. He's not happy about it. And then the name that her daughter had chosen was really out there, and he absolutely kicks off. And that's all I'll say. So very different situations, and it did really get me thinking. This was quite thought-provoking. Oh my gosh, I've missed a book out. Okay, I'll come back to that. Oh, so I actually read 7 books. Right then. Where was I? Really thought-provoking, and so interesting. Like, I think things like that are so fascinating. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, how one thing can completely change things so far into the future that you wouldn't even think they're connected, but they absolutely are. Yeah, and the way it was written, I gelled with the writing style straight away, and I just really liked this one, and I think I gave this one 4.5 as well. Possibly could be my favourite of the month. It was definitely this or Love Like Farms, 2 totally different books, but both really wonderful, honestly. Yeah, I really like this one. I'd definitely recommend this one, but please be aware of that trigger warning, like I said. I'd forgotten to talk about The Librarian of Auschwitz by Antonio Iturbe, which is translated from Spanish to English by Lilith Zucalin-Thwaites. This is a book about 14-year-old Dieter, who was taken as a prisoner into Auschwitz. It's a fictionalized true story, like it's based on a true story, but the author has added in elements of fiction. And this was so thought-provoking. When I said that word, that's what made me think of this, because that is the one word that I found really encompasses how I felt about this book. It was brilliant, and like, what can I say about Auschwitz and concentration camps? Anything I say won't be enough for the torment and terror of what these places were. But I think it's so important to read different voices from different situations, and it was really interesting to read from a different perspective, that of 14-year-old Dieter, who became the librarian of Auschwitz. Her job was to look after, I think, 7 books that they had in hiding that they were not allowed to have, and she really cared for these books, and it was like her life's duty to look after these books, because books were a very hot commodity in a place where you're not allowed literally anything. Yeah, very, very harrowing read, very poignant. At times I felt it was written a little bit childish, but then I was like, well, actually, it's the voice of a 14-year-old girl, so it really checks out. And I think he really captured the essence of her as a person really well. I really liked the little fact dropping that got sprinkled in, so it would maybe tell this whole chapter about some guy who was on an escape mission, and then at the very end it would say so and so became the 3rd person to escape from blah blah blah, like the actual raw fact. And that really made it hit home, like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is real and people actually did this. Like, it's unbelievable. But We do have to believe it. And as awful as that whole thing was, I'm grateful that we get to learn about it and read about people's perspectives and experiences of that time. So that was this book. I think I gave this 3.75 stars. Yeah. Alright then, for some end of the year stats, according to my story graph, I read 67 books. That's 67 books I finished, but I also had 16 DNFs, which takes my total up to 83, which I'm very happy with. That's a really good reading year. Favourites of the year, first time callers in there, B.K. Borison. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Those are definitely the top two. I really loved those books, but I read some really great books this year, and I think my average rating was 3.67, which isn't so bad. I'm pretty happy with that. Please let me know your favourite reads of the year, any recommendations going into 2026. I'd always love to know, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!